In the world of espionage, lies are currency. But what happens when a defector claims that everything you believe, even peace itself, is a carefully engineered illusion? In 1984, former KGB officer Anatoliy Golitsyn published New Lies for Old, a book that turned Cold War thinking upside down. More than just a memoir, it was a bombshell blueprint of Soviet strategic deception. Dismissed by some as paranoia, hailed by others as prophecy, this book remains one of the most controversial documents in the history of Western intelligence. So, what exactly is New Lies for Old? And why does it still matter today? Anatoly Golitsyn wasn't just any Soviet defector. He was a major in the KGB with access to high-level planning and disinformation strategy. When he defected to the West in 1961, he brought a treasure trove of intelligence. He exposed double agents in NATO, provided insight into Soviet internal politics, and most importantly, issued a warning. The Soviet Union was playing a long game, not just militarily, but psychologically. And, according to Golitsyn, the West was losing. He found an unlikely ally in James Jesus Angleton, the famously paranoid head of CIA counterintelligence who believed Golitsyn was the real deal, and that his message was being dangerously ignored. The core message of New Lies for Old is radical. Golitsyn claims that the Soviet Union had developed a strategy of controlled liberalization to mislead the West. That is, what looked like reform, glasnost, perestroika, détente, was not the beginning of the end for Soviet communism. It was a planned deception. According to Golitsyn, Soviet strategists in the 1950s and 60s began to see that brute force confrontation wasn't working. So they changed tactics. They decided to fake their own ideological retreat, to lower the West's guard and secure long-term dominance. The Soviet strategy is long-range, and it relies on the exploitation of Western wishful thinking, Golitsyn wrote. He claimed that even anti-Soviet protest movements in Eastern Europe could be orchestrated from the top, used to create the illusion of division and reform. It wasn't about immediate gains. It was about what he called strategic convergence, a slow melding of East and West, with the West ultimately absorbed into a softer form of communism. What makes New Lies for Old so provocative is not just its theory, but its predictions. Golitsyn forecasted that the Soviet Union would appear to collapse, only to eventually re-emerge in a new form. He suggested the Communist Party might appear to lose power. A liberal leader would rise to usher in reforms. The Iron Curtain would fall, not as defeat, but as a grand deception. Does this sound familiar? When Gorbachev appeared with perestroika and glasnost, when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, and when the USSR dissolved in 1991, it seemed Golitsyn was either wrong or eerily accurate. He had written, years earlier, a new generation of Soviet leaders will come forward with a convincing new liberal image, but their liberalism will be a deception. Even some U.S. intelligence officers began to wonder, was the Cold War really over, or just entering a new phase?
Unsurprisingly, New Lies for Old was deeply polarizing. Some intelligence figures, especially Angleton's camp, embraced it. They believed Golitsyn had accurately described Soviet long-term planning. But many others, including within the CIA, found him to be overly suspicious and ideologically rigid. They noted that some of his predictions didn't pan out, such as his claim that the Chinese Communist Party was still in deep strategic alliance with Moscow, or that no real splits existed between communist regimes. And perhaps more damagingly, Golitsyn accused nearly every other defector of being a Soviet plant. It created distrust, chaos, and, in the minds of some, paranoia. As CIA historian Benjamin Fisher later put it, Golitsyn gave new meaning to the term counterintelligence. He countered everything. Fast forward to today, and Golitsyn's warnings seem newly relevant. Russia is no longer communist, but under Vladimir Putin, it has returned to authoritarianism, Soviet nostalgia, and global ambition. More interestingly, modern Russian strategy often resembles the very deception Golitsyn described: fake opposition parties, controlled dissent, and psychological operations against the West. The use of media manipulation, electoral interference, and hybrid warfare echoes his claim that the line between war and peace was being blurred on purpose. Did Golitsyn see it all coming? The most dangerous deception is that which flatters our hopes and confirms our illusions. New Lies for Old is not an easy read. It's dense, ideologically driven, and controversial. But it's also a chilling exercise in strategic thinking, one that forces us to reconsider our assumptions about geopolitics, propaganda, and the Cold War's so-called end. Whether you see Golitsyn as a visionary or a Cold War Cassandra, one thing's for sure: he was playing chess while everyone else played checkers. And if he was even half right, then perhaps we've been looking at history through the wrong lens. Thanks for watching. If this intrigued you, consider reading the book yourself, or let us know in the comments what you think. Is New Lies for Old a paranoid relic, or the blueprint for the world we live in now?